Hey everybody, this is Pastor Brandon with our next episode of the Fandom Pastor. If you've been here before, glad to see you back. If you are meeting us for the first time, I'm so glad you're here. This week we start a whole new series. But before we get into that, if you would, do me a favor and share this out. The Fandom Pastor is all about those nerddoms, those different groups of wonderful different sections of sci-fi or what have you that people really love. And so this week we are talking on our new series about the Kaiju. Kaiju is a Japanese genre of giant monsters. And we're really going to be focusing on the films produced by the Toho company. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if I mispronounce any of these words, I apologize. I'm not an expert. I like the films and I enjoyed them, but I'm not an expert. And that's actually why I had a friend of mine, Pastor Zachary, over at Jasonville UMC help me. He's far more an expert on all of this than I am. And so if you have any questions about any of this, more than likely, I'm going to pass those on to him. So this time, if you recognized our clue from last time, you'll know that this character, and maybe you don't know, this character, as I said, is the most obvious Christ-like representation out of the main characters out of the Kaiju, the monsters themselves. We're going to be actually focusing on the character of Mothra. Now, below is a link to the trailer of the 1961 Mothra film, if you've not got a chance to see that movie, or if you haven't had a chance to see the newest one, Godzilla King of Monsters. Excellent film. And actually Godzilla was an excellent one too, so you might check those out. She is really the most obvious representation of religion as a positive influence. She really is this benevolent, loving character that only really gets involved because she has to. She feels like she must get involved to protect, and she'll do anything. Her symbol actually is very similar to the Celtic cross. So if you look, check her out again. I think you'll notice it, and it actually is pretty interesting. And to me, she especially is so Christ-like in that she is very much about justice, about protection. She will not allow anyone to be exploited. She will fight tooth and nail, or wing and pollen, to fight against cruelty. I mean, she is doing everything she can to protect everyone. She wants to protect the earth and the people of it. And so I think it's an especially interesting comparison for when we look at Christ in this same perspective. Now understand, I'm not saying she is Christ, and there are some aspects of it that are very non-Christ-like. Well, I don't even want to say that necessarily, but the fact that they worship her rather than Christ is obviously an issue. But she does guard those who worship her and punishes those who do evil. And again, no different than Christ himself. I mean, God himself protects all of us. He does protect us all. But by the same token, he does call for our punishment if we do something wrong. I mean, there's no question. We are punished for our sins, right? Now, Christ died for us, but we are still held accountable for our sins. And so she really is this very Christ-like character. And in fact, if you look at it, she is born of a virgin, too. The character is as Zachary had told me, if you compare the Christmas narrative to Mothra versus Godzilla from the 1964 film, Mothra is an egg laid by a virgin, and Mothra dies, rises from the dead, and defeats evil. And so, there's this constant symbolic comparison between the two. And I can't imagine that this is not intentional. It had to have been part of the whole process in creating Mothra, is to take these different aspects of it. Now, I will also say that she is the only main one of the kaiju, or at least the ones that we're going to discuss, that is female too. And I don't know if part of it is because women in general are considered more nurturing, more protective to children and the more innocent. I'm not saying that men aren't, but from a stereotypical gender role type thing, that's really what it is. And the worship of Mothra on Infant Island in Mothra and Mothra versus Godzilla is similar to the description of worship found in Revelation. And I thought this was really interesting. So you can see from the very beginning of Christ's introduction all the way through that the parallels between Mothra and Godzilla are very much in sync, are recognizable as two sides of the same coin. And I think that's really interesting because there are a lot of other aspects throughout the whole Kaiju series that are a little more of a struggle, but this one's so blatant. Again, I can't imagine that this is not a intentional comparison, and I think it's a great one for us to start out with, because again, Mothra is the one that sacrifices, the one that gives up everything to protect and love and just do whatever she can to just watch out for everyone else. And I think it's such a great character for us to watch, to reflect upon. If you have not had a chance to check it out, I really would encourage you to do so. Mothra is one of the more unique characters, I think, because she's not so blatantly, how do I want to say, not such a blatant attack or attacker or warrior, I guess is a good way to say it. She's not what you would traditionally see as a warrior. If you know anything about her, she starts out as caterpillar and then becomes a moth or Mothra. And so you don't really see a moth or anything like that, a butterfly looking type of thing, to be a warrior. And yet without her, they could not win. It would be impossible. Again, check out the most recent film. It's wonderful. But also check out the Toho films from the 1961 and forward. There's some wonderful, wonderful films. And it is fun to watch those and see really how everything connects and flows through the whole thing. Toho did a wonderful job. So I think that's all I have for that. If you have any suggestions or questions, we're going to continue this series for a little while. Here's my clue for the next one. This one famously had Raymond Burr in the film. And if you don't know who that is, look him up. So thanks, God bless, and you have a wonderful rest of your couple weeks until I meet you again.